morning at the cheese shop, as it always does, with my morning coffee, which I'm enjoying right now. Mexican organic is the way to go, if you want my opinion. But then I went up to the Arboretum, and I was there with my obligatory co-host, Kevin Horn, who's also the secretary of the Mountain Indian Conservancy. So we were there for the presentation of grants, and we're very grateful at the Conservancy to have been a recipient this year of a tourism grant from the Happy Valley Adventure Bureau. Then from there, we linked up with Landon Tengwall and Brandon Noble, two Penn State lettermen, two on-air personalities, and we recorded some stuff that's going to come out on the Tengwall Film Network channel on YouTube a little bit later this year. Then I went, or this month, I should say. Then I went downtown for those two guys to do a live show from the SBS that you told me you watched live on YouTube, and I thought was great. The audience loved it. And then I popped over to SCLO Library to be part of a Spring Creek Watershed Commission presentation on the future of the Rockview Prison property. And at 1 o'clock today, I'm going to be at the Willowbank building presenting on the same to the county commissioners. So a lot going on, all different facets of life in Happy Valley. So I just want to get that stewing in that Woodman brain. But going back to the Arboretum, Happy Valley Adventure Bureau, the first thing that struck me, Greg, is somebody who's got a little bit of politics in the receding history of his professional past. I was fascinated to experience a first yesterday. All three county commissioners got up and spoke, and it is the first time in my livelong life that I have ever heard a politician brag in front of a room full of constituents about doubling a tax. And yet, there was a lot of backpatting on the decision to double the hotel occupancy tax to increase that pool of money available to the Adventure Bureau.
Whoa. Are they going to go from 5% to 10%?
No, this happened already.
Oh, okay, yes.
It was like 2.5, and they doubled it to 5, and that's what made possible that 1.2 million pool. And I thought, this is great. I've never experienced this in my life. I've never heard a single politician ever get up and say, hey, everybody, you know what I just did? I raised your taxes. Now, this is a few years ago, but then I realized, okay, nobody really cares too much about, I guess, the folks who run the hotels. They're not particularly sympathetic figures, and everyone else who's paying that tax comes and goes. So the only time you maybe brag about raising taxes is when you could say, I raised taxes on people you never see, and definitely does not include any of you. But it made me chuckle.
And so tell us about the grant pool, and I think 91 venues, third places.
90, I think, yes.
Received this recipients of this visitor tax, which, by the way, is the economic driver of Happy Valley that keeps our infrastructure strong year-round. And tell me about it.
Yeah, so it was cool. I liked that they did it up at the Arboretum, which is one of my favorite additions to campus in my 30 years here
when was
in Happy
that built?
Valley.
When was the Arboretum?
I want to say late 2000s, 08, 09, somewhere around there.
A beautiful venue.
Yeah, it's awesome, and it just keeps getting bigger and better. And of course, the new Palmer Museum of Art is up there now. And there was some commentary. Steve Dersham, one of the county commissioners, who has been a commissioner for quite a while now, he was elected in the early 2000s and has lived his whole life in Center County, talked about how much Penn State has changed over his lifetime. And he was talking about how we were there in this beautiful venue, which is a great asset for the local community and itself something of a tourist draw to the area. Used to be Lot 80. You know, no law school, no arboretum, just a big old parking lot that turned into a frozen tundra in the winter, as somebody yelled out from the audience correctly, is my understanding. I never parked at Lot 80. Did you?
I did not, but I walked through it in the winter.
Do you want to know a quick story about parking at Penn State?
Go ahead.
So, freshmen were not allowed to have cars, even all the way back to when, maybe they are now, but when I was in school, you were not. But the great thing about, we talk about community and time. My high school friend and I were roommates, and we had a buddy who was a year ahead of us, so had already spent a year up at Penn State. And he found way back many blocks from campus, which to us felt like we were trekking to Bellefonte at the time, a street where you could park for free, leave your car, no ticket, no parking from 2 to 6 a.m., none of that. And you could just leave it there. And it was like a secret that was passed down from generation to generation at Lehighton High School. And it was like Arthur handing off Excalibur when he came back as we were getting ready to graduate. And he said, okay, guys, now I'm going to tell you where you can park Seeley's car when you get up to Penn State in the fall. And so we had a car freshman year. So I've never dealt with that Lot 80 nonsense. We just had the secret chalice passed down from one generation to the next.
Well, if we all have stories about parking lot 80, there's just it was a wind coming off the mountain, and you just get blown away. But back to
back to the Arboretum.
Back to the Arboretum, this beautiful venue where they're handing out money from the hotel tax to all of these places with the designed this 1.2 million. Every one of the grants are now supposed to market their event, their nonprofit, to lure more visitors back and to activate us locals into these events and into these nonprofits.
Right.
Speak to that.
And so Steve's point was that in the Lot 80 days, tourism was not something that was probably given half the attention from local leadership. And that's not just elected officials and folks in official capacity like the Adventure Bureau or the Chamber, but just the community and business owners. And there's been a big shift, I would say, in the last decade or less to understand that we have all these wonderful resources that we love to wax poetic on every morning here on Connect Happy Valley A.M. And we ought to realize that as our regional economy has transformed, some of the companies we've talked about that once upon a time were the backbone of the financial security that kept the Happy Valley boat afloat, like HRB Singer, founded by Penn State alumni, as those have moved along, how do we replace that income to the county? Well, why not get more people to be intentional about escaping the bustle of their daily lives, the intrusion of technology into every facet of our daily existence by coming to, the Shire from the Lord of the Rings that is Happy Valley. And there's been a considerable uptick, to the tune of millions and millions of additional dollars pumped into the local economy from tourism. And so when you find something that's working, when you find a vein of gold or a deep well of oil, you keep drilling. And so that was the impetus to expand this grant program and to continue doubling down on tourism as the face of the 21st century Happy Valley economy.
And last year, I think we exceeded 5 million visitors and projected this year to leap up to 6 million visitors. Hiding in plain sight was the oil, the resources that we do wax poetically about, that I discovered when I came here as a student, which led me to this pinch me, I'm in Happy Valley career I've had to promote it. And so talk about some of the recipients yesterday and why. I think over 250 people applied for these grants. They're restricted to only nonprofits, which is a controversial thing because the cultural assets here, like sitting in this building, Pine Grove Hall, in my view, deserves a shot at that grant. What makes Happy Valley special, and so kind of follow the money. Comes from the consumers who come back here for football, arts festival, for state championships, which are held here at the high school level that we've talked about, to people who camp here. It comes from the Airbnb, 5% if you're renting your house for an arts festival. So it's as you said, it's very interesting that we're cheering on the tax. And yet, even yesterday, there is a buzz about, like, why did they get it? Why didn't the other person get it? Why it's only nonprofits? Why aren't the cultural assets that are our third places eligible? But what did you feel? Mountain Indian Conservancy, you were awarded how much and why?
We got a $5,000 grant, and it's going to help fund our outreach and advertising program to get people from outside Center County to come hike Mount Nittany. And I was actually surprised, even as somebody who, as you know, could not be a more vocal or passionate advocate for the mountain as a resource to this area and to the Penn State community writ large. I was surprised when I sat down with the folks at the Adventure Bureau and reviewed the GIS data or the cell phone data that is able to give us much more accurate information about who visits Mount Nittany and hikes the trails and from where than our old archaic method of going out to the parking lot and trying to track what the state license plates are. There were roughly 8,000 people last year who hiked Mount Nittany from outside Center County, many of them from outside Pennsylvania. And to fold back in the discussion about the Rockview property and what's going to happen with it, what I hope people around our area will appreciate, and thanks to our listeners who are tech troubleshooting in real time with our audio. Now I lost my train of thought because I looked at the chat. I got to get better about that.
Are we having bad audio?
No, we're good. The audio's fine. It's fine.
I love a live audience.
Yeah, but nobody needs to hear us anyway. but what I hope people need to understand about that property is that because the state owned just an enormous footprint of land around the State Correctional Institute for over a century, all the growth, all the development that you've seen happen in State College, and to a lesser extent, but still significantly in Bellefonte, stopped at the borders of the Rockview property. And so we've got this beautiful, untouched stretch of valley between Spring Creek Canyon, which is itself a success story of conserving some of the Rockview property from about a decade ago, and Mount Nittany. And part of the vision for using a portion of that state land that I'm stridently advocating for will be connection of the Spring Creek Canyon Trail Network and the Mount Nittany Conservancies and Mount Nittany Trail Network across the valley. And when you start looking at some of the other resources that this area boasts for outdoor recreation enthusiasts, which is booming business right now. Like just yesterday, the ribbon cutting at the new trail expansions at Rothrock State Forest. If that vision can be realized, if we can put together, we're talking probably till all is said and done, 40 plus miles of trails. If you have Mount Nittany, Spring Creek Canyon, and a connector between them, I think, as somebody mentioned at the forum we were at last night at SCLO Library, that has the potential to put Happy Valley on the map nationally for outdoor rec tourism. And I think for sure we become even more of a destination throughout the Mid-Atlantic. And one of the benefits to outdoor recreational tourism, and Mount Nittany is certainly a part of this, is that it doesn't strain the regional infrastructure in the way big events do. So you talked about how a lot of the recipients of grants that were handed out yesterday are events, and they are. They're festivals, and there was a representative from a local thespian group that spoke, a group that's putting on the America 250 parade. And those are great, and we need those, and we need even bigger events, concerts at the Bryce Jordan Center. We talked about before how when the Beaver Stadium expansion gets done, that's going to become an off-season event venue. We had Ironman. We have sporting tournaments all throughout the year, PIAA championships. All of these are great. They all max out our capacity. They fill our hotels, they fill our restaurants, and all of it is crammed into a 48 to 72-hour period that we bring some of these additional millions of people into the area to spend their money and pay their 5% tourism tax. But what outdoor rec tourism does is it spreads the same economic impact and the same visitorship benefit over 365 days without straining all your regional hospitality infrastructure to its limits. So I think there are a lot of reasons, not only why we need to be working hard to continue the good work that I give the Adventure Bureau a lot of credit, that they have advanced this cause of getting people to come visit and experience and unwind in Happy Valley. But I think we need to understand that right now, outdoor rec is hot. It's a focus of Harrisburg. It is one of the big growing subsegments of the American tourist industry. And we are sitting, as you love to say, on oil We're sitting on acres of diamonds here in Happy Valley, and I'm really proud and gratified that Mount Nittany can be a big part of that, and in many ways the tip of the spear, because it has this great cultural, and I'll even go so far as to say spiritual significance to the area and to Penn Staters all over the world.
Well, and you use the expression to put Happy Valley on the map. And if you read any mountain bike magazine or fly fishing magazine, and these are global publications, Happy Valley is certainly on the map, always in their top 5, top 10 rankings of the best place. And that's why I feel we have the pole position in outdoor recreation. You know, again, why are we doing Connect Happy Valley? The assets are here. We just felt we wanted to connect people to them and amplify them because we take them for granted.
Yes.
And you know, to put us on the map, certainly Penn State football in the 80s put us on the map, you know, and now outdoor recreation's putting us on the map. Your love of these 5,700 acres that are up for sale, you know, and I learned that Toyota asked the 5 why question. Have you ever heard about the 5 whys?
You know what, I have, but refresh my memory. I'm not remembering it.
Toyota coined the expression, if you go to the front line and there's a problem on the assembly line, you ask the question why.
Yep.
Why there's a problem, and you respect the frontline people. On the 5th answer of why, you're going to get to the root cause, the truth. So I want to ask the question, why are 5,700 acres now available and up soon to be for sale by the state?
Well, not necessarily for sale, but we can get into the details if you want.
Well,
I don't want to
you
stop
know, and just kind of running
No.
through my own little 5 why. The good news is because the prisoner population is down tremendously in the state of Pennsylvania, that
Correct.
we don't need the prison to have prisoners in it. Again, a pinch me moment to be here in Happy Valley and in the great Keystone State, that crime is down, prison population is depleted. They're closing, I think, 2 prisons in Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
So that's good news.
I mean, I think so.
It's great news. And so now, you know, you've been having these, you know, sessions around town at the libraries and at the Axman Brewery, and you're advocating that we should lean into outdoor recreation and preservation. And again, this will become yet a more good opportunity to make Happy Valley beyond on the map, but you know, the shining star.
Well, I like to think about it in terms of assets on the regional balance sheet. How do we see and appreciate what we've got, take care of it, double down on it, amplify it, benefit from it? I think that's a lot of the theme of Connect Happy Valley and a lot of theme of this show. We talk about telling the story of our place in a way that is going to help its people appreciate where they live and how lucky we all are to be here. And my goal, I think I've told you this off the air, is that I just want people to see Happy Valley through my eyes. I want to help people learn to love it like I do. And part of that is having the wisdom to see and care for what is right in front of you. And I mentioned before about how development and growth had stopped at the boundaries of state prison property. And yes, great story. I have empathy for the folks whose lives were upended because they had made a home here in Happy Valley working at that prison. And now, to some extent, their lives have been disrupted. Some of them had to leave. Those who didn't are now facing a longer commute because they're working at a different facility. So I do want to acknowledge that. I don't want to just say this is a fairy tale, right? There's a downside to practically everything. But overall, good story, fewer prisoners. And as somebody who loves Happy Valley as much as I do, I did not love the fact that right next to my beloved alma mater and in the shadow of wonderful Mount Nittany, there was, you know, a state prison with a lethal injection chamber. So I am not heartbroken to see that leave the area.
Is it still not the only prison in Pennsylvania with a lethal injection?
Yeah, that's actually kind of a weird complication. That, I mean, we haven't executed a prisoner in, I think, decades at this point, which I would argue is a very, very good thing. Nevertheless, capital punishment is still on the books. So we've got this state death chamber down the road here. And as I'm sure you can imagine, in an election year, no senator or representative wants to come home and tell the folks who are about to go to the ballot box with his or her name on the ballot and say, hey, everybody, guess what I've brought to the district? Good news, we're getting a lethal injection chamber. So it's a little bit of a fly in the ointment. But anyway, to get back to the Rockview property, essentially, I describe it as a hermetically sealed bubble that has been in place for more than a century, protecting this deep storehouse of some of the most precious assets on the regional balance sheet. Clean water, rich soil, beautiful landscapes, outdoor recreation, and the best trout fishing in America. All the best fly fishers in the country and frankly the world have Happy Valley on their bucket list. And I am learning, one of the great things about this experience, Greg, working on this project, is that I have just been once again reminded about how unbelievably blessed we are in this area with exceptional talents. People who have great capability, great insight, great passion for all different disciplines. And so it's been an awesome learning experience for me. I've gotten to, sit down at a table with scientists who have devoted their lives to understanding ecology and humanity's relationship to the biosphere. I got last night to meet some guys whose entire professional and in many ways just their personal passion is angling and ministering to the people who want to come here and have the full Joe Humphreys experience of getting out there and fly fishing some of the best trout fishing in America. And I've learned how unbelievably fragile that asset we've taken for granted forever actually is. If we are not intentional and if we're not smart about how we develop, and I'm not anti-development at all, not at all, but I'm also anti-stupidity. I'm also anti-cutting off your nose to spite your face. And if we're not careful with some of this last beautiful, fertile, undeveloped land, and we just turn it into more Chipotles and mattress firms, we're going to wreak long-term, irreparable damage to some of our greatest and most potent strengths. So I say precious, rare, fragile, irreplaceable. Those four words all perfectly describe this storehouse of assets that is sitting in the Rockview property. And if we are not careful, we're going to make rash, foolhardy, short-sighted, myopic decisions, and we're going to burn it all away. And that's going to be the legacy we live with in my retirement and that my generation of people of the Nittany Valley bequeaths to our successors. And that, to me, is just an embarrassment and a shame I don't want to carry with me for the rest of my life. So I am out there doing the Lord's work, trying to prevent it.
And you're obviously peddling love. Your care.
Unquestionably.
Your love, you mentioned it, why we're doing this show, is we love our little slice of paradise, and we're here to amplify it. And you talked about water, the bucket list of fly fishing. Certainly the beach is on my mind. It's summertime. It's normally the annual trip down to the Outer Banks or to Long Beach Isle or some beach along the southern New Jersey coast there, and all the happy memories of my family at these beaches. And we have such great bodies of water here with all of our state parks. Whipple's Dam, I was talking to someone yesterday that has a little fishing store out in Howard, at the Sayers Dam there. And what a beautiful little lake that is. Or we have Raystown down the street, Pope Hattie, Black Moshannon, so much water. So I'm thinking beach. And I'm going to just throw kind of a loop here, is that I was fascinated this week that when I went to Outer Banks with my family, there was a famous little store down there that sold donuts. It became Duck Donuts.
Mm-hmm. The first Duck Donuts,
The very
right?
first
Yep.
Duck Donuts. And so this week, it was fascinating to me that our local franchisee decided to shut down his Duck Donuts store here in downtown State College.
Yeah.
And as we talk about dispersing $1.2 million to market the assets of these events in Happy Valley, where it's pinch me, we live in Happy Valley, and the news cycle that was all a Twitter, pun intended, that Duck Donuts was shutting down. And so there's a thread here.
Okay.
The beach, the emotion and connection we have to our summer vacations and to those family times, to those summer tailgates in front of the ocean, the rhythmic beat of the ocean and all the fun we have in their 7 days. And then that person felt that emotion, decided to open such a store on College Avenue, a little street back from College Avenue. But what I was fascinated about, you said what's good news, what's negative news, that our local media, 2 TV stations, multiple radio stations, our daily newspaper, it was like headlines. Duck Donuts closes in downtown State College, and then all the foodie groups, and then all the bulletin boards lit up by the Brolyarchs who run our social media and mine our data, were autopsying, like, why did Duck Donuts close? So I wanted to just put you on the spot and say, I haven't asked the 5 why question, but I'm so fascinated in light of how now all of these businesses or nonprofits, not businesses, they didn't get the grants, are given this money to market. And you know I have a love of that word, market. You have $5,000 to market that maybe instead of 8,000 people are going to climb Mount Nittany, which is dear to your heart, we might get it to 10,000 and 12,000. And I'm also into metrics. I'm also into results. Will that 1.2 million be spent wisely? And why didn't Duck Donuts get a grant?
Well, okay, first of all, I want to say that I rented my wedding tuxedo from Duck Donuts back when it was, I think, Mr. Tux, I think was the name. So
Gotta love Mr. Tux.
yeah, you live in this area long enough, and you know the Stagecoach Deli begets the Fraser Street Deli, begets the Benny Leone's, and whatever comes in between. So I just chuckle every time anybody brings up Duck Donuts. All I can remember is going in there to get fitted for a tuxedo. But look, I have no idea, Greg, why for-profit entities are not eligible for these grants, other than to say I'm sure it's all regulated by state law, is my guess. And because we got a very stern talking to yesterday about all the paperwork that needs to be filled out in conjunction with accepting one of these grants, and that's all mandated by the state. All of which we will dutifully complete well ahead of the deadline at Mount Nittany Conservancy, I should note. If I had to guess as to why the franchise shut down, I would say it's probably just the same old story you hear about most business closures in downtown State College. The rent is very high. The margin in the restaurant business is typically very low. Humans cost a lot of money. And the ebb and flow of the business cycles in Happy Valley are not conducive to supporting 365-day operations that are stuck in that environment of scarce and expensive labor, low margins, and high rents. That would be my guess. And that is based on absolutely zero information.
No, and I'm with you. And it was Mr. Tux, and before that, it was the Center Daily Times downtown local newspaper offices too. And that's the fun of being in a college town. It's the fun of being in any town, is supporting or not supporting the entrepreneurial endeavors of what we call third places, eating establishments, coffee shops, restaurants, and again, the vision and mission of Connect Happy Valley is to amplify. Because when I was looking at the autopsy as the TV news stations talking to the founder or the owner, a lot of people said, we didn't even know it was there. We didn't even know it was there.
Duck Donuts?
Yes, right.
Wow.
They didn't know.
Yeah.
But what's fascinating to me as a marketer, though, is they probably got $40,000 worth of media play because they shut down.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering, as a spin, is from a marketing spin, do you like proclaim someone shutting down and then that amplifies the attention to them, and then we go support them? And we saw a little bit of that in COVID, where we supported our local, heartfelt, love local vendors and suppliers. But anyway, I just thought, and really what I was leading to is I have often said that Penn State is our ocean and College Avenue is our boardwalk.
Yeah.
And so for the entrepreneur who had the vision of saying, I'm going to set up a shop on the boardwalk here in Happy Valley, I'm just fascinated on creating, certainly amplifying that this is a destination for a week vacation here in Happy Valley. You know, come to Happy Valley for a week, you know, enjoy the ocean of Penn State and all of our water and all of these cool, very boardwalky-like kind of experiences here, you know, and so that's why I'm trying to weave it all together here.
Can I tell a story that spins into that exactly?
Go ahead.
Years and years ago, by complete happenstance, our group of friends who we tailgate with every fall always tries to pick, if possible, a weekend in the spring to just come back and enjoy Happy Valley when it's not hectic hustle bustle of a football weekend. Now, it was a little bit easier in earlier eras in our lives when there were fewer kids, fewer professional responsibilities. And so, again, we're going back probably 16, 17 years now. But one of these weekends, like I said, by complete happenstance, not by design, happened to fall on the first weekend of Penn State spring break. And we had a big group of us. We all got together. We went downtown early on Saturday and realized, holy crap, we got this whole place to ourselves. They opened up Disney World and there's no other customers. And we had a blast. We just went from place to place. There was no line. There was plenty of elbow room. We were every bartender's favorite customer.
So rattle off the names for our audience. We have roll call this morning from Encinitas, California, Scottsdale. We have alums. Where'd you go? Did you go to Zeno's?
Oh, so we finished up at Zeno's. We started out at Mad Max, R.I.P. We spent a lot of time out on the porch at Cafe 210, still going strong. We did go to Zeno's. We went up to the Nittany Lion Shrine. We walked around campus. I think we were for a while at a Bar Blue, once again, R.I.P. But it was incredible. We're like, this is the time for alums to experience Happy Valley. It's in one of these lull periods because I am not somebody by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, I'm the exact opposite of a State College resident who does not love it when the undergrads are here. I love the full life cycle of the Valley. I'm, full disclosure, happy when they leave. I am thrilled when they come back. But there are different benefits at different times of the year to be enjoyed by different demographics of folks who can claim to call Happy Valley home, either in their residence or in their hearts. And so we realized what a great hack this was. First weekend of spring break, come back and have a Penn State alumni weekend. And you get the same effect all summer long with the extra benefit of the beautiful weather. And for years, Greg, I have been taking the lesson of that weekend and peddling it to anyone who will listen on both sides of College Ave and saying, what are we doing? Why are we not actively trying to bring alumni back here during the summer, during spring break, constantly? And everybody looks at me like I have two heads. They don't understand it, or they give me some crap about like, oh, well, that's when we like to bring conventions in, so we don't want to fill the hotels up with alumni. And I was like, does Airbnb not exist? Every single hotel room, every time I look around, there's a new hotel going up. Every room is filled with people going to conventions. Like, give me a break. It's crazy. It's crazy. We ought to be marketing. Come back to Happy Valley, relive your college days, experience the very best of America's #1 college town with all your closest friends over the summer, over the off weekends. We ought to be out there peddling that like crazy, and I don't understand for the life of me why that idea just seems to not connect with it. Does it make sense to you?
Well, why
just lie to me and say yes if it doesn't.
Hey, we're putting all our chips into doing exactly that. That's what we're doing right now. We're leaning into the fact that this is a year-round destination. You know, when I bought my engagement ring, I learned what a jeweler does. They bring out that little thing and they do a VS1 versus G or H, and I said, you know, what are you doing there? He goes, well, to get the clarity of a diamond, you have to compare it to something else. And I'll never forget that, because when I went to Deep Creek, Maryland, where we had 10 of us rented a big house on the water, I spent the whole week saying we should have stayed in Happy Valley. We could have been learning how to fly fish. We could have been mountain biking. We could have rented a cabin. We could be out at one of these bodies of water, Black Moe or, Whipple's Dam, so as you know, I'm a bit of a freak on Happy Valley, and I've always, since I started a company in 1981 and called it Happy Valley Promotions, have been peddling my own love for the infrastructure and the natural resources that were right there in my plain sight. And I'm still, to your point, as you waxed there a little bit, it's in plain sight. Why aren't we seeing it? Well, we see it and we're acting upon it. We're seeing the future and acting upon it today. And we want to activate these assets. We want to shine a light. And if we bundle them together, you can have the greatest 4-day, 5-day. It pains me when people fly to Disney World, or we fight so hard to get an airline to go to Disney World. I want to fight so hard to get more airlines to fly people in here, not out of here.
A really dear friend of my wife's and mine, who sadly has passed on, died way too young, but had a lot of wisdom for such a young man. And he told me, I understand why people envy you living in State College. I could never do what you do, because when I come back, that's Disney World for me. And so if I never leave, I don't get the dopamine of coming back. To me, you just live among it. He said, no, he's like, Buchignani, you're probably the exception, because you're, as you said, a freak. And you wake up every morning, you're like, my God, I'm in Disney World. And you just every day, you're walking through like you're on vacation in Disney World, which is true. It's true. But I thought that was a really interesting perspective. He was the first person I ever heard compare Penn State and coming back to State College to going to Disney World. But when my friends come back, I am like the tour guide. Just think about, if you are somebody who spent some of the most impactful years of your life on campus at Penn State, if you are looking for a getaway from the stress of wherever you are in your life now, you come back to this place where green is just omnipresent. There is a lot of research that says 10 plus minutes of passively observing the natural fractals of the outdoors calms the mind. It releases neurochemicals that relaxes your entire body. And here, you can't look in any direction without seeing those fractals. And so you come here, and if I'm your tour guide, you're going to start your morning with coffee with Bill Clark at the cheese shop, roasting those beans like he has been for 50 years.
I do want to say, we want to also have coffee right here at Pine Grove Hall as a live audience too. Go to cheese shop and then come here when we start promoting that, but we're not there yet.
I was getting there, but you cut me off.
Oh,
You're
sorry.
fine. You're fine. Yeah. Anyway, nobody's here. They don't have coffee in the morning. I know, but Flower and Stone does, which
right next door.
You should go and have breakfast there. Anyway.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. Yeah, have your coffee. Get coffee somewhere, local. Go somewhere. Don't go to Dunkin' Donuts or Starbucks. But then, hey, maybe you go. I tell you what, if it's early enough in the morning and you're feeling your oats, you can walk right down Calder Way, and they're serving beer start at 8 a.m. at Antifragile now. So you can get a beer that is brewed by Paulo, the brewer there, has got an incredible story. He was an exchange student here in State College when he was in high school, and was back here in the States visiting his former host family when he got connected with John Schaefer, the owner, who was looking to get into beer brewing, and Paulo had a background and interest in it, and that was an opportunity for him to move his life and his family back to State College, because he had just fallen in love with the area while he was here as an exchange student, as a high schooler. And now he is brewing right on Calder Way in downtown State College, beer that, if you believe the Beer Advocate ratings, is among some of the most highly thought of in all of Pennsylvania. So you can have, a pint of some of PA's best beer on Calder Way. You can walk down College Avenue. You can buy some Penn State gear, maybe with an Adidas logo on it now, in the next 6 days. You can go sit out on the porch at Cafe 210. And then to bring it back here to Pine Grove, you can go have dinner at one of the distinctive locations in this area that has a lot of personality to it. You can get an excellent meal. PineGroveHall.com is where you can check out the seasonal menu here at Pine Grove Hall, which is really, we've talked about before, has some of the coolest character of any spot in the Nittany Valley. We've been doing these NIL events with Happy Valley United here, and everybody who comes out, the coaches, the players, the staffers, and the guests, anyone who's a first-timer is just blown away about how cool it is and the fact that they didn't know that it was here. And then you can wrap your evening up by going to a place that wasn't here when you were in college. Maybe go have a cider looking down into the valley at 814 Cidery, or a little bit further down 145 and you go to University Wine Company and sit out there and look over their lawn with all the great trellises over across at Mount Nittany and see campus and watch the sunset. What's better, man? You telling me you would not return to whatever high-stress job in whatever metropolitan setting, relaxed and energized and ready to go after it, doing that weekend? How could you resist?
Well, and tonight down at East End Social, Heister Street is shut down for the summer. Across in the same alley next to Student Bookstore and where the old saloon is, which is now Manny's, which is the new press cidery. And tonight there's a watch party for the World Cup. And that place will be packed and rocking tonight. So just so many things to do, but I like this word fractal. And what's the definition of that? Green space?
No. A fractal is like it's a geometric shape.
Okay.
So, there's a natural, I'm going to use the wrong word here, but there's a natural geometry to snowflakes, leaves, the way branches grow from trees. There's a logic to it that maybe our brains can't discern, but there is a natural symmetry. And what neuroscience has shown us is that passive observation of the geometry of nature has a healing effect on our minds and therefore our bodies and by extension our spirit. So I know this is one of the reasons, Greg, I love to run outside and why I like going to that. One of the, again, talk about it's just all the different gems we're blessed here. We have this unbelievable commitment to preserving green space and in this vast network of excellent public parks. So, I love going to Two Deck Park, which I learned last night at the SCLO Library Forum was supposed to be a shopping mall.
Oh, yeah, Don't Maul Us was a big bumper sticker.
Until the community pushed back, and now I've got, these miles of running trails I can go run, and I always think, and there's a beautiful view of Mount Nittany at Two Deck Park. And when I'm out there, trying to sweat out my troubles and get my natural vitamin D from the sun, I always think, make sure you're observing your fractals, relax your body. That's why I love running down in toff trees. There is just something about being in nature, which we are a part of. Some people forget that humans are not antithesis to nature. We are part of nature. And being out of it, being into it, especially when it's a transition from our very artificial day-to-day environment, from the lighting to the architecture to the devices that we're all chained to now in our pockets 24/7, making that transition is healing. And I think it's one of the reasons why people feel so refreshed and re-energized after they come visit us here in Happy Valley. And why we're doling out $1.2 million in tourism grants to get more people to come get that benefit.
And so could we say we're trying to frack the fractals?
I think that terminology would probably be deeply offensive to the people with the greatest appreciation for the healing power of the fractals. So in a antisocial sort of way, I kind of like it. Let's do it. Frack the fractals.
Okay, so what are you going to be doing this weekend? What's on tap that you think you and your wife, your daughter, what are you going to be doing to experience Happy Valley this weekend?
Oh, I'll tell you exactly what we're going to do this weekend. With great drive out 150 is we're going to go visit my in-laws in Spring Mills because we have been fortunate enough, my wife and I, to have all our surviving parents move from where they lived to be here in Happy Valley to be close to family. I grew up, and my wife did as well, close to grandparents, and we realized what an absolute blessing that is, which I shouldn't be saying to you because you're thinking, if I can't get my kids to move here, maybe I want to leave. I don't want you to leave. So the only thing we can do, Greg, is keep doing this show and lure them all back. But it really is.
We're trying.
It is one of life's great blessings. Try to get that Costco here. But I'll work on that when I talk to the commissioners today. I was saying, hey, how can we do anything to get a Costco? And so it's been interesting because my mom and dad were not Penn State alumni, but my dad actually started here. Then he took a detour to a place called Vietnam for a while. And so they both ended up graduating from East Stroudsburg, like James Franklin. And but they big Penn State fan, my dad, and a lot of Penn Staters in my family. So my mom was well acquainted with State College. My wife's parents, not so much. And it's been interesting watching them slowly discover, even though, we're never going to get them to be bleeding blue and white, naturally. They're immigrants, not natives. But they love Penns Valley. And they've really come to appreciate all that this area has to offer. And so we're just going to go out there, and they live in a little development right outside Center Hall. And it's a beautiful spot, and we're going to just spend family time.
Well, let's talk about Penns Valley, Center Hall, Boalsburg, Phillipsburg, Bellefonte, Milroy, this Happy Valley, in Center County. And I consider even the routes coming in here, Bellevue, big, down in Reedsville, down in Raystown and Huntington. Again, the cultural assets with, State College being maybe at the city, the epicenter, but everything kind of is just so beautiful. And we're going to have guests from each of these little regions. And they all have their festivals. And last week in Bellefonte was the cruise. It's just, and this weekend is the We Are weekend, where alums are coming back to take some seminars on campus and to go to the Arboretum and go downtown and bus tours. So it is happening, where Penn State's realizing that, especially in experiential learning, now life learning is very important, and so we're going to be mixing in alums.
We Are weekend is a good step in the right direction. I just think every weekend after graduation should be We Are weekend.
Oh, believe me, we're driving that bus to, and hopefully you're going to be doing walking tours and bus tours, because there'd be no better than Chris in your van telling you about the beautiful history and the heritage and the whole story of Happy Valley and Penn State. They can meet right here, put a bus out front, we'll do a tour. This is where it's going, Chris.
When my daughter was a lot younger and I would be driving her to a daycare up in Innovation Park, we would drive through campus because my wife's office used to be in Old Main, which, by the way, everybody thinks is so cool and sexy. That is like the worst building on campus to work in because it's so old. So everybody's like, oh, man, aren't you sorry that you left Old Main? No one who worked at Old Main is like, no, I was sad to get out of there.
But we all know the mule that carried the rocks up to build that building, right?
Who was?
Old Coley.
Yeah, very good.
Whose bones are on display, I believe, now at the Hub.
In the Hub, yes.
Used to be in the
Old
different
Coley.
building, yes. Old Coley. Big fan of Old Coley.
Yes, some people say Old Coley was Penn State's first mascot. I don't know if that's entirely accurate. Old Coley had a sister. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
You did not?
What was her name?
Maybe you know what, Greg? Maybe I'm going to have you go look it up.
We do need to update the Are You a Penn Stater guidebook, and we're going to put that in there.
Yeah, so that's your homework. I'm interested to learn that you don't know that information. So we're going to make sure that you learn it. You're going to go look that up.
Is it Sister Coley?
It was not.
Okay.
But my wife used to have her office in Old Main, drafty, old building. But we would drive through campus, and I would tell my daughter stories about the buildings and the campus and everything. And so one weekend, the Lion Ambassadors are doing the lantern tours where they're taking kids through campus, and we were on one of them, and we walked past Atherton's grave, And my daughter, who's like 6 years old, says to the line ambassador, hey, did you know they buried Atherton here because this used to be the edge of campus and it was like the flower gardens and they thought it'd be a really quiet, peaceful place for the president? And the guy didn't even know what to do to be told this. A line ambassador being told why they buried Atherton where they did on campus by a 6-year-old. So, again, I'm a complete freak, as you said, Greg.
Now, Brandon,
but the best kind.
Now, Brandon Noble on the show with Landon yesterday, he was calling Kirk Cignetti a psychopath or something.
Yeah, I think that's an accurate description of Coach Cignetti.
So
Yes.
freak, psychopath, people who are extreme, are the people we look to. So take that as a compliment. You are a freak.
I do. There is virtually no one whose name is remembered after they die who was not a weirdo. Did you ever think about that?
I've lived my life according to that mantra.
Yeah. If you are normal, like when the lights go out, that's it. You'll be remembered by your friends and loved ones, and that's the end of it. And probably we don't care because we are either winked out of existence or we are on to the next plane or on to the next life or whatever it is. But I am completely at peace with being a profoundly oddball individual.
Well, I think
I am what I am.
We're sitting on a stage kind of manifesting that live with no editing. So, okay, we got about 6 minutes left, Chris.
I don't need editing.
Yeah. We'll let the audience decide that by voting with their feet or their links, links or their comments. But anyway, so we got about 5 minutes left, Chris.
Their only comment was fix the damn audio.
Did we fix it?
Yes, it's fine. It's good.
Hey, speaking about comments coming in from our vast growing audience, now that we're coming out of the closet, so to speak, is a lot of controversy about the name of the show. Connect Happy Valley A.M. There's been a big move for the morning connection. And also I'm noticing we're called connecthappyvalley.com. A lot of people are calling it Happy Valley Connect. And as someone hypersensitive to market forces, that's what I think is the hallmark of innovation. I love throwing you on the spot because I know you have strong opinions and it just doesn't matter. Like that famous Bill Murray song, it just doesn't matter.
No, it's not at all that it doesn't matter. But I don't understand, Greg, just in the same way that I don't understand why people at the Adventure Bureau and at Penn State don't understand market the off weekends to alumni to come back and have vacation at Penn State.
Or during the week. You should vacation from Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
I assume that unlike everyone in State College, people everywhere else have jobs. Well, that's my joke. Nobody in State College has a job, apparently.
A pressure point.
The way they schedule practices and youth stuff, it's like, oh, hey, you guys can come pick your kid up an hour early, right? It's like, oh, yeah, sure, no problem. I don't have a job. Anyway, go ahead. Yes.
Well, a pressure point is that because there is a belief that we are sitting on oil, acres of diamonds, and this is a cultural asset that is a destination for 700,000 alums, 5 million visitors, entrepreneurs have built 4 to 5 new hotels and I think 1 or 2 more on the boards. So we have infrastructure to house more and more people to enjoy Happy Valley. But there is a pressure point that we need to fill these hotels Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Sure. So you can remote work during the day.
Come here come back and enjoy 3 days of the week and you really have the lay of the land and you really have concierges here welcoming you, certainly Connect Happy Valley being at the forefront to welcome you back.
So, I just don't understand how you don't see the connection between why I want to call the show Connect Happy Valley A.M. and the fact that you're frustrated that people don't know the name of the brand. That was just Mr. Marketing Guy. I just said, as the great Bob Zimmerman taught me once upon a time when I was a communication student at Penn State, repetition sells. Repetition sells. That's this whole show. It's 9 to 10 a.m., 5 days a week when the power doesn't go out in Pine Grove Mills, repeating over and over and over again the incredible story of Happy Valley. And if you want people to know Connect Happy Valley, you want them to know Connect Happy Valley A.M. You got to say it anyway. It may as well be the name of the brand. That's just, I'm a simple guy. I'm like Matt Campbell. I fall in love with the process. I execute the process. Repetition. Connect Happy Valley, connect Happy Valley, connect Happy Valley A.M. That's my piece. That's all I got.
And what's a wonderful, wonderful thing. So with the
Meat and potatoes.
So with a minute left, back to the Toyota 5 Whys. Why are we doing Connect Happy Valley? Why are we doing an app? Why are we doing a live show that is 9 to 10 that we dream of going from 8 to 10? And we're going to have all the entrepreneurs and people who run these hotels and restaurants and attractions. Why are we doing it? You got a minute to bring it all home.
Thanks, Greg. No problem. I will say what you brought up when we talked about Rockview. It goes back to love. Why do we do anything, really? Why do we leave our homes? We certainly don't have to in 2026. There's plenty of Netflix and video games and crap on our phones to keep us inside, not seeing the sunlight, denying ourselves access to the fractals till they put us in the ground. And the reason why we don't do that, the force that is pulling us in the opposite direction is love. And for you and me, the freaks, we love Happy Valley, and we just want to get the people who are blessed enough to spend a few days or their whole lives here to see it through our eyes. That's why.
Well said. And
I think the good folks at the Toyota Corporation would have been satisfied with that answer.
And so ultimately, I've been known as a huckster, a peddler, a marketer, P.T. Barnum, these kind of lifelong aspirations. And so can I, in the final stage of my career, am I finally just peddling love?
I don't know why you're asking me. I think you already know the answer.
Thank you.
And that's a great way for us to end. We'll be back tomorrow, 9 a.m. here from Pine Grove Hall. Go to connecthappyvalley.com to sign up for the weekly e-letter, and visit pinegrovehall.com to check out the events calendar, browse the seasonal menu, and make reservations, maybe for tonight. But until next time, have a great day and enjoy Happy Valley.
Now we're supposed to wait because it keeps going, right?
Come on, it's